watching News Mongolia on MNB World, and I'm your host, Ulaanbaatar. Our top stories for today. Prime Minister's working visit to provinces in response to the Dzud crisis. Government takes measures to alleviate herders' financial strain amidst severe winter in Mongolia. Social Impact 2024 discussion held in Ulaanbaatar. For the news, stay tuned. In response to the pressing challenges posed by Dzud phenomenon, the government is taking decisive action to provide assistance to affected provinces. Emergency groups spearheaded by ministers have been established to address the critical situation faced by herders.
Prime Minister Erdogan conducted a visit to Hangasum in Arhanga province on February 22nd of 2024, aiming to assess the risks that herders face and gain insights into the current winter and spring challenges they are enduring. During his visit, Prime Minister engaged directly with Arhanga province's herders, expressing solidarity and assuring them of government support. Meaningful discussions took place regarding potential solutions to address the herders' issues. These included the impact of continuous snowfall on road closures, hindering fodder collection and medical access. Herders proposed practical solutions such as cultivating green fodder for their own needs, assigning students and young professionals in veterinary and zootechnical fields to local communities, and exploring the establishment of yak milk dairy products and weaving factories in the region.
It's important to ensure the quality of aid and address social security concerns post-Dzud. In addition to immediate relief efforts, the government is actively collaborating with international organizations, non-governmental organizations, the private sector, and local councils to raise funds for multiple rounds of assistance until the snow melts.
Recognizing the persistent environmental and climatic challenges facing pastoralism, Prime Minister underscored the importance of adopting a long-term strategy. He emphasized the need for coordinated efforts between the government and herder families, aligning with regional development initiatives to ensure sustainable solutions for the future.
Responding to the intensifying winter conditions in Mongolia, the government has declared a heightened state of preparedness across the nation. 6 emergency groups led by ministers are actively working in countryside to address the challenges posed by the severe winter weather.
During his recent working trip to the countryside, Amirsahan Samboyan, Deputy Prime Minister of Mongolia and Chairman of the State Emergency Commission, encountered a surge in requests related to herders' loans. Consequently, the Deputy Prime Minister convened a meeting with the central and commercial bank officials to explore the possibility of postponing loan repayments. Subsequently, an agreement was reached to ease the financial burden on herders. Tauk Surum, President of the Bank of Mongolia, acknowledged the challenges faced by the agriculture sector in 2023 and 2024, leading to an increased demand for the postponement of herders' loan repayments. He stated the central bank is ready to provide policy support. The Bank of Mongolia's database reveals a total of 1.2 trillion Mongolian tugriks in loans extended to 140,000 herders. Of these, 51.2% or 618 billion Mongolian tugriks was provided by State Bank, while Han Bank provided 585 billion Mongolian tugriks, equal to 48.5%. Taking proactive steps, Han Bank has already initiated the postponement of loan repayments for herdsmen who applied after December 1st of 2023. State Bank has also agreed to extend the loan repayment deadline until June 1st of 2024. In a related development, the National Reinsurance Company has committed to providing compensation for indexed insurance coverage for herdsmen insured in September and October of the previous year. This multifaceted approach aims to provide financial relief and support to herders grappling with the economic impact of the severe winter conditions.
Crime prevention efforts can be undertaken by various entities, including the government, private institutions, public organizations, and even individual citizens. Lately, private companies have begun integrating crime prevention messaging into their advertising campaigns. The Social Impact 2024 discussion serves as a platform for social impact, aiming to showcase and discuss exemplary practices in crime prevention. The campaign is encouraging people to refrain from speeding on roads and was successfully implemented with a budget of 20 million MNT. Consequently, there was a significant 40% decrease in road traffic fatalities. This serves as a compelling illustration of saving numerous lives at a relatively low cost. As other organizations tailor similar impactful initiatives to their specific context, the positive outcomes are poised to further reduce crime. Today's event endeavors to demonstrate that organizations can effectively promote their products by fostering the adoption of beneficial habits and attitudes among individuals. The health product company Monus has initiated an advocacy campaign aimed at promoting greater health consciousness among men. Similarly, the Apple company is implementing a program advocating against drinking and driving. By incorporating the QR code of our campaign onto the text of our products, we have integrated innovation to enhance access to essential information, fostering a positive impact and instilling responsible consumption habits directly among consumers through our products. Companies are undertaking numerous initiatives like this to mitigate the occurrence of crime in society. They propagate a positive attitude within their circles and exert a beneficial influence on others. This discussion was co-organized by the Ministry of Justice and Home Affairs of Mongolia and the Office of the Coordination Council for Crime Prevention in Mongolia. It saw participation from over 100 private sector representatives and approximately 70 marketing managers. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Next, our program will turn our attention to foreign news, partnered with international news agencies. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak told the House of Commons on Wednesday that Britain had issued sanctions against the people who led the penal colony where Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny died last week.
Mr. Speaker, I share the concern of...
Sunak spoke after the United Kingdom Foreign Office said Britain had issued sanctions against 6 people who led the colony. The 6 prison officials who were sanctioned under UK human rights regulations include Vadim Konstantinovich Kalinin, who oversaw the brutal prison camp where the anti-corruption campaigner was kept in solitary confinement. Navalny also suffered from being denied medical treatment and from having to work in temperatures dropping to -32 degrees Celsius, the Foreign Office said in a statement.
Mr. Speaker, the whole House will join me in sending our deepest condolences to the family of Alexei Navalny. He died for a cause to which he dedicated his whole life, freedom, and to return home knowing that Putin had already tried to have him killed was one of the most courageous acts of our time. Together with our allies, we are considering all options to hold Russia and Putin to account, and this morning we sanctioned those running the prison where Alexei Navalny's body still lies.
I'm sure the whole House will join me in sharing our disgust at the death of Alexei Navalny, who, as the Prime Minister said, died because of his efforts to expose the corruption of the Putin regime. It is a reminder that Putin has stolen not just the wealth, but also the future and democracy of the Russian people.
Sunak also addressed the crisis in the Middle East ahead of parliamentary debate and vote on a ceasefire in Gaza. The Israeli strikes across Gaza killed at least 67 Palestinians overnight and into Wednesday, including in areas where civilians have been told to seek refuge. The aid group Doctors Without Borders also says 2 people were killed when a shelter housing staff in the Gaza Strip was struck during an Israeli operation in an area where Palestinians have been told to seek shelter. The war, which erupted after Hamas' October 7th attack into Israel, has displaced around 80% of Gaza's population of 2.3 million, with most people heeding Israel orders to flee to southern Gaza.
The Israeli military on Wednesday released footage showing what it said were airstrikes on a Hezbollah military compound in the area of Yarun in southern Lebanon.
The military said it launched the airstrikes Tuesday after it identified a number of terrorists entering there. It also said that on Wednesday, its fighter jets struck 3 Hezbollah operational command centers in southern Lebanon. Lebanon's state-run national news agency said an Israeli airstrike on a southern village has killed a woman and her 7-year-old daughter. Wednesday's airstrike on the village of Majel Zaun came after a series of strikes overnight. Since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war on October 7th, Hezbollah forces have engaged in near-daily clashes with Israeli troops along the border. Israel and Hezbollah fought a month-long war in 2006 that ended in a stalemate.
With aid agencies encountering obstacles in reaching individuals in frontline regions of Ukraine, the United Nations humanitarian appeal for 2024 is merely 10% funded, as reported by the country's resident coordinator. Denise Brown, speaking in Kyiv, highlighted the challenge of delivering aid during intensified fighting. Denise Brown emphasized that the insufficient funding for 2024 puts vital assistance at risk for those in frontline areas, imperiling access to essential humanitarian aid such as food and water. An estimated 8.5 million Ukrainians living in dire conditions near combat zones could be affected if the annual appeal is not met.
There are certain areas like Chasiv Yar I can speak to because for several months we couldn't get into Chasiv Yar. Now we're able to go. So, it just depends where there's an intensification in the fighting. And we take opportunities to go in and provide, particularly very close to the front line, supplies for several months.
Amidst public attention predominantly focused on military aid, Brown is actively lobbying the international community and private sector to recognize the ongoing high humanitarian needs. Despite the uncertainty surrounding military aid, the necessity for addressing humanitarian crisis remains paramount.
We have, for 2024, launched an appeal for $3 billion, which is less than last year. And again, we're trying to be very focused and prioritize. We have right now about 10% of that. We're talking to the international community, member states, to private sector that, this war isn't over. The economy is in shatters, inflation, families separated, women on their own with children, hospitals and schools decimated by attacks. There's a lot left to support. That's the message we're giving at the highest levels, also within the UN.
Ukraine's economy continues to suffer from the repercussions of Russia's full-scale invasion. Families are torn apart by the conflict, and millions of Ukrainians residing near frontline areas lack access to basic necessities such as food, exacerbating their dire circumstances. United Nations teams, in collaboration with partner organizations, persist in making deliveries across embattled zones of Ukraine, despite facing numerous challenges and risks inherent in operating within conflict-affected regions. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.